Why is Paris such a magnet? What makes it so different from any other city out there?
As an artist, a naturalized American, patriot, quintessential New Yorker, I still have to admit that in terms of city building, each major city in the world has to look to Paris.
Why is it so attractive? Maybe it's because it has so many wonderful, gorgeous streets, buildings, churches, cathedrals, parks.
Many cities have clusters of beautiful buildings. What else makes Paris attractive? The cafes. Oh yeah, there are lots of those in Paris, lots of cafes, but New York City probably has more cafes. So it's not the cafes. It's something altogether different. That which makes Paris unique.
The city in which my soul takes a respite in the transparent shadow of Notre Dame.
There is one person who actually went ahead and made Paris the city it is today. One person. Who was that person?
Napoleon.
Napoleon. He introduced the metric system to the world. But no, it's not Napoleon. One person who made Paris unique, not Napoleon.
Louis XI.
Louis XI. Postal service, as we know it today, exists thanks to Louis XI, is evidenced by the inscription in the upper left corner of the facade of the main post office building in New York, 8th Avenue, 33rd Street. There it is. See, it says Louis XI. Yeah, okay, but no, not him. Who else?
Cardinal Richelieu.
Cardinal Richelieu, okay. Apart from being the chief villain in the Three Musketeers, he was also, the historical Richelieu was also a great man. He centralized France, he revamped its economy, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not him. Who else?
Napoleon III.
Napoleon III. We're getting closer. Napoleon III is one of the characters, principal characters in our story, the story of how Paris was built. He's not the lead character, he gets Best Supporting Actor award. The story does begin with him. He was the original Napoleon's nephew, and at that moment when he enters the story, France was a democratic republic, which happens in France to France periodically. It becomes a democracy. So Louis Napoleon was his original name. He ran for president, the nephew of the original Napoleon, and won the election. Yeah, he became president of France, the French Republic. Then,
If I continue in this capacity for a few more years and then what? New elections next time?
I may not even get elected.
And I have like big things on my mind, great projects. I want to be remembered as a great contributor to French culture. I want to be a benefactor, an enlightened ruler of France.
This is not working. I gotta get power for life. I don't want to be bothered by elections anymore. How do I do that? I'm gonna stage a coup d'etat. I'm gonna overthrow the government and make myself emperor. And he did exactly that. The way it was done was ridiculously easy. Now, putting up a barricade, barricading a street in Paris used to be, in France, almost a national pastime. They really enjoyed doing it. They did it for like centuries. What you do is you have this narrow street, right? And you dump a lot of trash, rubbish, garbage, old furniture, dirty socks, flower pots in the middle of it, wall to wall, so that the passage is blocked. And then on top of the barricade, on top of the rampart, you put a lot of your friends,
with guns and maybe a kid with a pistol, and of course, because this is France, a woman with naked breasts and a flag, okay? And there you have your barricade. You build up a few barricades around the National Assembly building, so no one can get through, and you will not let the military interfere with your activity at the National Assembly. Then you go to the National Assembly and say, hey guys, I have a pistol, I'm the emperor now, please sign the paper. And that's exactly what happened. It was ridiculously easy, the easiest revolution like ever, or coup d'etat anyway, and he crowned himself emperor like his uncle. And at that point he started thinking, because that's what emperors sometimes do, they think. He started thinking, look, if this was so ridiculously easy for me, maybe somebody else will show up a day from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, and do the same thing to me, build up some barricades, and so what do I do about that? So he summoned to the palace a person whose name was, he was the prefect. His name was Georges Eugène Osman. Funny spelling. And they put their heads together and they decided to prevent future barricading by widening the streets. Not all streets, because that would totally deface Paris, but cut some boulevards through the existing streets. So you have a network of narrow streets, and through them run those huge boulevards. Why? You can't build a barricade on a boulevard. Georges Eugène Osman, his agents around the city of Paris, looking for the ideal places through which to cut boulevards, buildings to demolish, stuff like that. And Osman was a man of impeccable taste. If you walk down a boulevard today in Paris, sometimes you see a building, a church, or just a residential house building that is sort of out of place, and it's not really facing the boulevard, it's at an angle to it. That means that Osman was passing by, looked at it and said, hey, this is gorgeous, we're not knocking that down. No, this stays. And so plans were made up, drawn up, and of course there was a lot of corruption. Well, it's a given. You get a lot of people and a lot of money together and you have corruption. Very few people knew the exact location of the future boulevards. The plans were secret. So some people got a lot of money together and bribed the people who had access to the plans. After which, of course, they took the plans, they looked at the plans, and here's the future boulevard, and here are some buildings. They went out there and bought those buildings on the cheap, and then sold them back to the government for a lot of money. A lot of people became very rich. Osman was a very, very meticulous urban planner. He, of course, he summoned architects and contractors and stuff to build new buildings on those new boulevards, to replace the demolished buildings. And he set, he had a set of rules for any contractor or architect who wanted to build new buildings on the boulevards. It has to be of a certain height, no more and no less. It has to have 5 floors. It has to stretch along the entire block, corner to corner. The ground floor had to be built in a certain way, The 5th floor had to have a balcony that stretched, iron balcony, that stretched throughout, the entire block, uninterrupted. The eaves, which is like this part of the building, the eaves had to be at a 45-degree angle. And the corners of the building could not be right corners. They could not be like sharp like this. They have to be easy on the eye, so they have to be cut a little bit. Room for a cafe. And those were the rules. And according to those rules,
boulevards, Osman's boulevards were lined up with these very similar, very beautiful, ornate buildings. They are unique. They don't really belong to any architectural style except Osman's style. On top of the boulevards, Osman rebuilt the train terminals in Paris. Under his aegis, the new opera house was built, which is now world famous. The entire project took about 20 years altogether. It bankrupted the treasury. It eventually served as it was the ultimate downfall of Napoleon III demise. Osman himself had to, he went into like forced retirement towards the end of the project. But the main thing is that the finishing touch to the great masterpiece that Paris is today.
Those wonderful boulevards through which Paris breathes, lined with beautiful trees and beautiful, gorgeous buildings, they make Paris unique.
And the one person responsible for all that was Georges Eugène Osman. God bless.